Hey yo, what's poppin'? Drip TCG in this bitch, and today I am very excited to show y'all what I've been messing around with. So I am very excited for the new support that's coming out in Cyberstorm Access for the Code Talker deck. Well, really, it's cyber support. It's cyber support for all Cybers decks. Ignister, Salamangreat, Mathmech, every Cybers deck can use all of these new cards. But I'm a Code Talker player. I actually have a Code Talker deck, so I was so excited when I saw these new cards be revealed. And I've just been messing around, seeing what kind of combos are possible. And I actually have a couple of, I've been able to do a couple of very nice 1 and 2 card combos with the deck. And so I just wanted to showcase them in case anyone else is also looking to see what's possible with the deck, specifically for a Code Talker variant. So just so you have an idea of what to expect from this video, basically all of the Endboards are going to try to end on this exactly. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interruptions. So yeah, that's 6 interruptions. In this case, this was done with 1 card, but I'm going to show you other ways to do it, not just with Defensor, which is one of the new cards coming out, which is insane. So 6 interruptions off 1 or 2 cards, but also in the extra deck, if you notice, I still have a access code package, meaning that, if somehow my field gets blown up, if somehow they break through all my field, I can still, in this case with Debug, because I was able to add her back throughout the combo, I can still literally just 1 card access code, because, Debug can search microcoder, go into Code Talker, microcoder searches Cynet mining, use that to search something, go into transcode, go into access code. So even through like getting my board wiped, I still have an extra play to do. And that's basically what all these combos are going to aim for. So yeah, let's get started. So this first one is going to be just Defensor alone. Well, Defensor plus any discard. I'm just going to let it play because I think most of it kind of explains itself. But if you have any questions on the combo, just let me know. I'll just stop it whenever I feel I need to say something. So real quick, I got this idea from Exordio of the Duelista to go into the Mathmech package because you're gonna need a spell card in the graveyard to really maximize this combo and end on the most amount of interruptions. So I'll go back to that at the end. But one thing I want to say here is that if you do play this package, which you probably should, you always want to summon this guy right next to Firewall. Because, well, let's just play it out. Alright, so the reason you always want to summon Alambertian next to Firewall Dragon is because he has an effect to tribute himself and summon a Mathmech from hand or grave, and obviously that's going to trigger Firewall's effect to summon something from your hand. So that way you can trigger this thing's effect basically without having to link summon into something, because usually you'd have to link off something right next to it in order to trigger it. But with Alambertian, you get to basically trigger it for free. Okay, so real quick here, with my dark search, I summoned a dark, search a dark, I searched Armbitron. This isn't needed in the deck, it's just, I'm running it for a very specific reason I'll say at the end. But This could have been Iblee. You could just search Iblee directly, because if you don't know, I'm pretty sure most people don't know what this card is. He can tribute himself and special summon any CYBERSE from the deck. So he's just going to tribute himself to summon Iblee, at least in this combo. So if you're not running him, you could have just hard searched Iblee right there. All right, so now I can explain this a bit more. So, like I said, I got the idea for the Mathmech from Exordio of the Duelista, because you need a spell card in graveyard if you want to actually trigger CYBERSE Witch's effect to search the new ritual. And I definitely think that the new ritual is correct to run her, even though she is kind of a brick. I'll get into that at the end when I talk about like the sample list. But the Mathmech package basically allows you to search out a spell card throughout your combo. You know, you search out Mathmech equation. So that way you always have a guaranteed spell card in the grave for CYBERSE Witch to trigger. And that way it doesn't really depend on you hard opening any spell cards. You could open all monsters and you could still trigger this effect. And like I said at the beginning, you know, at least this combo, as you see, was just a 1-card combo plus any discard. And you end on 6 interruptions, you know, Iblee, the 3 firewalls, the fusion that's a negate in the graveyard, and the conflict. And the best part is that they're all different, you know, because you have 3 monster interrupts, 1 interrupt from the grave, you know, I mean, 3 interrupts in the forms of, you know, like boss monsters, 1 interrupt from the grave. So even if you're Dark Ruler, you know, you still have this. You still have this as well if you get like Dark Ruler. And you still have the Iblee lock, which is very uncomfortable for your opponent to out, especially, you know, obviously if you have Sanctuary to protect her. And not only that, this combo specifically, I did not use Protectcode Talker's graveyard effect to summon himself back. You know, if you control a Firewall Link monster, you can banish Link monsters from the grave and special summon this card. And that is important because that means that, for example, if my opponent, let's just say he kaijus this card or he just runs him over with something with more attack, I can just summon him back and I still have Cynet Conflict live. Whereas if I had used his effect, or if I ended on another Code Talker and, you know, that Code Talker is threatened, I have to automatically, you know, use Cynet Conflict to protect it. Whereas here, even if he threatens this out, I can just summon him back out and this is still live. So that's very, very nice. And obviously, I'm also just counting this as 1 interrupt. But if you count it as the amount of the negates it has, which is 3, then, you know, I technically have 8 interruptions in total. Plus, this thing is freaking triple co-linked, you know, Firewall Dragon. Plus, Singularity is also a triple bounce, in addition to this being a triple bounce. Plus, I added back Lady Debug throughout the combo. And I'll probably add more stuff from my grave to my hand with Firewall Dragon the next turn. So that's a lot, man. Or sis. That's a lot off of 1 single card. So yeah, anyways, on to the next one. So this one's probably my favorite combo, real talk, because it shows you what to do even when you brick, quote unquote, because the build I play will probably only have 1 Firewall Phantom. And also from most of the builds I've seen online, most people are running only 1 of that, which makes sense. You don't really want to draw it because it's level 5. But if you do draw it, if you draw this and you only play 1, you'll have nothing to summon off of Defensor. And if you draw both of them and you only play this as your only target, then, you know, you're kind of screwed. But the amazing thing is, and this is why I love this combo so much, even if you draw the brick, this is still full combo. The whole thing. You lose basically nothing. So check this out. Okay, so basically, as you see, you end on basically the exact same endboard. You know, the 3 firewalls. This is triple co-link. This has 3 negates. This has 3 bounces, conflict, and the fusion engrave. Slight difference, you don't have the code talker in Extradec, the link 2, and you don't have Iblee in your not Iblee. You don't have Lady Debug in your hand, but you can still firewall during your opponent's turn and add, you know, whatever you feel you need to add back. You can just add it back to your hand or to your Extradec. And yeah, you again, you end on basically everything the same. The only difference is that this is summoned back by its own effect, so it will be banished if it gets, you know, if it leaves the field for whatever reason. Now this combo is basically gonna end on the same thing. I'm just gonna show you how to do it with Lady Debug as the starter, plus any extender. So again, all 3 firewalls, this time in the middle, Cynet conflict, fusion and graveyard, and we have debug in hand plus transcode and access code in the Extradec. So admittedly, this combo, the sequencing is kind of weird because at one point you have to use 2 link 3s to go into Splash Mage. But, you know, it works. It ends on everything. And I haven't found another way to do it. So, yeah, on to the next one. So this is just going to be Cynet Codec plus any 2 CYBERSE. Let's go. I'm not gonna lie, this one's kind of nice because you get to end on the extra flex. That is the full mode extra link, you know, all 7 zones. So always pretty nice when you're able to do that. On to the next one. Okay, so those previous combos was basically just showing how to full combo with the main starters of the deck. But now this one's very interesting because this is gonna show you a play that you can make, which is basically just Mathmech Circular plus any monster in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't matter what it is. And this is something I was testing out. This is something I did when I was testing out how to play through hand traps. So this is assuming that A, you've used up your normal summon, and B, you have no CYBERSE on field. Because obviously if you have a CYBERSE on field, then you can do a lot more. So let's check this out. So off of just Circular plus any monster, which if you noticed, Gamma was just used to as tribute fodder to ritual summon out CYBERSE Sage. We were able to end on all three firewalls, and this one with 3 negates, this one with 3 bounces, and the fusion engrave, which is very nice. Also, we have Mathmech Sigma engrave for next turn, and yeah, that's about it. So the only thing I don't like about this combo is that I haven't figured out a way to make it so Firewall is at least double co-linked. Like, for example, having Firewall in between these two guys. Because that would be much, much better. But still, off of one single Mathmech Circular, you're able to end on this without your normal summon. Pretty nice. Obviously, I do know that there's other things you could do with just Mathmech Circular if you, for example, actually played the Mathmech Trap card, or if you had an Adignister build. I know that this guy can also do a lot of wild stuff. But this is Code Talkers we're talking about, bro. We don't talk about other CYBERSE. I'm playing. But no, this is basically just with a Code Talker build, right? So yeah, this is pretty cool, man. And so this one's going to be very similar to the last one, because obviously Parallel Exceed can go into the Exceed, and obviously that's why it's called that. And you can search Mathmech Circular, so this is going to be very similar, but this is basically showing why this is, a good card to max out. So similar to the last one, although here we actually were able to end on Firewall double co-linked. So this is much more threatening, because now you have a double bounce here and a triple bounce over here. So that is pretty nice. And one of the things I really like about this new support, specifically for Code Talkers, I guess this is really more so generic for CYBERSE, because what I'm about to say applies to pretty much any CYBERSE deck now. But it gives you a generic way to go into your boss monsters. Because, for example, if you were playing like Code Talkers, which is basically just Iblee lock plus trap card, right? Before the new support, I mean. You had no way to go into your engine from your extra deck. And what I mean by that is, for example, Mathmech, if you're playing an actual Mathmech deck, you have this to go into your engine, right? Because this can search any Mathmech card. If you're playing, for example, Adignisters, you do have the Link 1 that at least searches your field card, which is very important, right? For all of your combos. But Code Talkers have none of that. Code Talkers have just Heat Soul, which is a random draw, right? what I'm trying to say is before this new support, if you didn't open specifically microcoder or a way to get to him, you basically couldn't do anything. At least not anything Code Talker related, right? And you also couldn't really end on like anything amazing. But now, even if you open, none of the Code Talkers, because of the fact that you can search this thanks to CYBERSE Witch, it means that you can make Firewall Singularity literally by just opening extenders and, any way to get to a spell card in graveyard. So, very nice. In addition to obviously Darkfluid. So very, 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 very nice. And for completion's sake, this is kind of overkill. But I'll show you what you can do when you open both of your best starters in the deck. So, opening the best two cards in your deck, you end on the full mode extra link with all the 6 interruptions plus two follow-up cards and mini access code package. So yeah, I just wanted to show that there. So this is basically a sample list in case any of y'all were curious, which I'm sure some will. Some will be. This is probably going to be what I'll be messing around once the new support is actually, printed in May, or at least something similar to this. So I think first of all I should address the elephant in the room, which is why the fuck is this 52 cards? Well, firstly, that's single-handedly due to CyberSage and Cynet Ritual. I highly, highly, highly believe that this should be run strictly because obviously Singularity is an insane boss monster, but what makes it insane is that its two effects, the one to bounce and the one to monster reborn something, are completely free every single turn, 100% free. And what that means is that, if you aren't able to kill your opponent quickly, this is one of your best games, in a mid to late game grind game situation, because every turn you can bounce cards for free. But there's a catch, right? That you need to have fusions, synchro, XCs, and ritual monsters. And given that your fusion monster will often banish itself from will pretty much every time banish itself from the graveyard to negate something. If you only had like a fusion and an Xyz, and you didn't have synchros or rituals, once you use this, Singularity will only have one bounce per turn, and that's just not that threatening. It's very, very easy to play around. And also, I should add, what also makes Singularity good is the fact that this bounces spawn traps, not just monsters. Because Code Talkers, as a combo deck, doesn't really have that much to actually fight spawn traps, other than Cynet Conflict, which is a one-time use, this thing, which is a one-time use, and Lingeribo, right? So the fact that this can also bounce back row, obviously you do it in the end phase, is really nice. But basically, this is a very long way of saying If you play the ritual, then once you've used the fusion, you're still going to have two bounces, one from the ritual, one from the Xyz. You're going to have two bounces that you can do with Singularity every single turn. So that's one of the two reasons why I think it is correct to play the ritual monster. The other is because CYBERSE Witch is kind of insane, right? Because CYBERSE Witch is basically just another copy of Splash Mage, in that she's a Link 2 that revives some, it's a monster reborn for free. And unlike Splash Mage, whatever she revives actually has has its effects. So I don't remember if I showed it in one of these combos, but there are some lines where you will, for example, ritual summon this by tributing off something like a Lady Debug, and then you're just gonna revive Lady Debug with CYBERSE Witch, and it's gonna have its search effect, and you search something, and then whatever you just searched, you can summon it off of the fusion. So that's very nice, obviously, but in order to be able to play CYBERSE Witch, again, you need to play the ritual, and specifically, you need to play it and never draw it, right? Because if you draw either the ritual monster or the ritual spell, then you can no longer use CYBERSE Witch, which is very, very sad, very not poggers. So yeah, that's my explanation of why I believe this is completely correct to run. Like, you shouldn't just play the fusion with like a synchro. I mean, I guess if you play a synchro, then you could cut this. I should have said that. Like, if you're playing fusion, Xyz, and a synchro, then maybe you can cut this. But that bites into your extra space, and as a CYBERSE deck, obviously your extra space is kind of, you can't really waste any slots. You need every single card to do something, because there's so many cards that you want to put in a CYBERSE extra deck, but you obviously only have 15 slots. So I'd rather just put these in my main deck and take the risk of drawing them. And obviously, if you draw them, it's not the end of the world. This can be searched many ways, or you can even dump it with code generator and then add it back with something like exporter or firewall, like OG firewall addback. And this can, of course, be searched by microcoder or defensor. So again, it's not the end of the world if you draw them, but you don't want to draw them. And that's my very long explanation, Jesus Christ, of why 52 cards. I mean, you could definitely cut it down, but I just don't see the need, because all three of these are starters, right? This one card starter, this which says you can tribute this card, special summon one CYBERSE monster from your deck, but its effects are negated. This is 3 more copies of this, because obviously this card triggers in graveyard, Firewall Defenser. So it doesn't matter if it's negated. And Alambertian has a lot of uses, because you can also summon out Code Explorer for the addback. You can summon out Gachiri for the protection immunity, kind of broken. You can summon out Firewall Guardian. And as you saw in the combos, you can also just summon Iblee. And the reason, I should go into this now, but the reason I actually summon him in the combos instead of just going into Iblee directly is because he has a grave effect which says, if a Link 3 or higher Link monster you control is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effects, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So basically, it's just insurance. If my opponent wipes my board, I can bring it back. And if I time it correctly, I might be able to keep him for my next turn on the field. Which basically means that it's going to be easier for me to go then into my access code for the next turn. But you have basically 3 copies of this, 3 copies of this, 3 Alambertian, 3 Lady Debug, 3 Microcoder, 3 Cynet Mining, and 3 Small World. So all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of these, Jesus Christ, 21? All of these 21 cards are starters, and most of them can be done with 1.5 or 2.5 cards. The half is obviously a discard for Firewall Phantom's effect. But all of these are starters, so you don't mind seeing any of these. And like you saw in the replay, this on its own does a lot. And this plus any CYBERSE also does a lot, because you just search Circular. So seeing any of these 27 cards is very nice. So even though I'm playing more than, obviously way more than 40, it's, you have a lot of 1 and 2 card plays, a lot, more than half of your cards. So it's still fine. Then 1 subtraction, 1 addition. You don't really need to play one of each. You only need to play one of them. But again, I'm just also filling out deck space so I don't draw these 2 cards or the field spell by that, by that matter. And, it's still nice to have both, because if you draw one, you can search the other in the combo. And again, since they are level 4 extenders, in a pinch, these guys can help go into Alambertian, which can go into Circular. And as you saw, Circular alone does a lot. 1 Gachiri to search if you already draw this. 1 code generator for the combo. 3 Sigma. Now, you could get away with playing 2 or just 1. And obviously, drawing him plus him is not nice because you'd rather dump him. But one of the biggest weaknesses of Code Talker is getting your monster removed from the field. So let's say you normal summon Iblee, even if they don't negate her, but let's say they banish her or they flip her face down. If you don't have a CYBERSE monster on the field, you kind of can't combo. It's kind of like Salamangreat in that regard. So having cards like this, Mathmech Sigma or Circular, that can summon themselves for free without having to have a CYBERSE on field is very important, in my opinion, for being able to play through interruptions. And then 1 1 code exporter for whenever you draw Parallel Exceed, you still have something to search. Call by plus TTT, 3 Dark Ruin No More, 1 Dotscaper, you needed to dump off Code Gen, 1 Iblee, 1 Firewall Guardian in case you draw the Phantom, although as you saw, this guy puts in work. Also, another cool thing is that if you already opened or searched Dotscaper, you can dump this off of Code Gen and then bring it back with either Splash Mage or Cyber Switch, and you can do more stuff. Upstart Goblin. So I put that in as a meme. I always add Upstart Goblin to my decks whenever they're over 40. And whenever they're under 40, I just always add it. It's such a good card. But I always put this in my decks whenever I play over 40 as a meme. And eventually, once I figure out the deck, I take it out. But it actually turns out this actually helps with not drawing this chick. Because like you saw, this deck can combo with just 1 or 2 cards. Or if you get interrupted, maybe 3 or 4. But I don't need my whole hand to a full combo. And I'd much rather keep an Upstart Goblin in my hand while I'm full comboing than risk drawing any of these cards, specifically these 3, which do not help, and especially these 2, which completely hinder my combo if I draw them. So this is literally just a placeholder in my hand. If I draw it, I'm not going to activate it. I'm just going to full combo. And after I've searched these 3 cards, then I'll just Upstart and, see what I get. But that's the main reason it's here. And 1 Equation, you need it for the combo. Cynet Conflict, you need it for the combo. Firewall Phantom, you need it for the combo. Sanctuary, you need it for the Iblee lock. And Cynet Ritual and CYBERSE Sage. Then we have 1 Salamangreat Balinix, Lingaribo. I will never not run this in a CYBERSE deck. I do not, or how to say this, I respect trap cards, so yeah. Splash Mage, Code Talker, Transcode Talker, Xcode, Firewall Dragon, Mathmech Alambertian. I can't spell that. I can't say that. Code Talker Inverted. Actually, I want to talk about this guy real quick. If you notice in the combos, many times I would summon him, and I actually wouldn't use his on-field effect because I had no CYBERSE in hand to summon. And before this new wave of support, this guy's effect was crucial, in my opinion, because before the new support, you only had 3 ways to get something on the field, something that wouldn't summon itself. So something like an Iblee, like a Lady Debug, etc., cards that don't summon themselves out, you could only get them in one of 3 ways. You would either normal summon them, you would summon them with Code Talker Inverted, or you would summon them off of Firewall Dragon's once per turn effect. And so before this new support, his effect was very, very important. But now it's not as important because now instead of 3, you have 5 different ways of getting things on the field. Because you can normal summon them, you can summon them off inverted, you can summon them off firewall, but you can also summon them off of fusion guy's effect. Because during the main phase, you can special summon one CYBERSE monster from your hand, and the rest of the effect doesn't matter. But basically, he's another copy of this in a way. Well, better, because this can be done whenever, not when it's not just when it's summoned. And on top of that, now you have CYBERSE Witch, which can also summon things out, this time from the graveyard. But like I said, and I'm pretty sure I did it in one of the combos, if you have something you want to summon out with her and it's in your hand, you can just tribute it off with Cynet Ritual and then just summon it back from the graveyard. So that way you have basically 5 ways of getting monsters out onto the field if they can't summon themselves out. And so, long story short, that's why, in some of the combos, you'd see me summon this guy and not even activate his effect, because it's just not as needed. But you still need him as a light target for Cynet Codec, the main reason you run him. 1 Protectcode, cards wild. 1 CYBERSE Witch, Singularity. CYBERSE Worm, although obviously that name's going to change, most likely. Firewall Darkfluid. And 1 Break Your Board Talker. So there's only 1 card I kind of want to fit in. Well, there's 2. I'd love to fit in CYBERSE Quantum, but that's just because I like that card personally. Not because he's like needed or anything. But there's only 1 card I really would like to fit in this extra deck that I haven't quite been able to figure out, and that is Update Jammer. Because Update Jammer is basically a 2-card OTK. Because right now, if I want to like 1-punch my opponent, for example, let's say you use Mathmech Circular's effect, which says that you can only attack with 1 monster for the rest of the turn, you basically have to go into Firewall Darkfluid, which isn't hard, but I'm saying you have to jump, you have to like combo a lot. You have to go through this, go through this, go through this, and then make this with like 8,000 or 10,000 attack, and then 1-punch your opponent. And you kind of have to go through more hoops to 1-punch them. Whereas, if you played Update Jammer, you can just 2-shot them with an access code talker. And obviously, summoning him means that you can pop anything you need to pop before attacking. So that's the one thing I would like to fit. Otherwise, the extra deck is, pretty nice as it is. It covers a lot, regarding being able to go first, but also being able to go second. And so this is just some cards I've thought about that in theory could be good. I'll just hover over them, and if you want to test them out yourself, feel free to do so. Ram Clouder, Cyberse Gadget, Bouncer Lord. Specifically, this is because when you get that extra normal summon, you can use Iblee's secret technique, which says that if she's normal summon, she can revive a Link monster with this effects negated. So it makes Link climbing easier. That's the main reason to run this. Backup Secretary. This is because you actually have no extenders. I mean, this build has no extenders that debug searches. Like, she can only search microcoder and code generator in order to go into like a code talker monster. But if I want to go into something like a Splash Mage or CYBERSE Witch, then I would need something like a backup secretary in the deck. 1 for 1, this is for microcoder. Swap Cleric, Prohibit Snake, G Golem something. This thing basically summons 1 billion tokens, but I haven't really tested with him. Darkfluid Neo Tempest, really cool card, no space for it. G Golem Crystal Heart, Update Jammer, Heat Soul for the random draws, which aren't as good as you think it is, in my opinion. 4-much Skipper to search Gachiri and Exceed, and Lava Golem because it's searchable off Small World. Oh, I should have said this earlier. Small World. This whole deck is CYBERSE, but they're all different levels and attributes. And for example, Parallel Exceed can bridge almost every card in your deck except this because they're both wins, this because they're both level 8s, and this because this has 2000 attack and this has 2000 attack. Everything else can be bridged through Parallel Exceed, although there's other ways of bridging, not just through him. But Parallel Exceed also happens to be a bridge to Lava Golem because they're both level 8s. So I just thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, that's the list. Although obviously this might change from here to May. This is just so you have an idea of, what to do, what you can do. And yeah, hope y'all enjoyed. So to wrap this up, there's many different ways to build this deck, of course. There's also many different ways to combo even with the same cards. Like even if you had this list card for card and you tried to do the same combos, there's like different ways that you could have ended on the same end board, not just following the exact way I did it here in the video. So if this is a deck you like, this is definitely then something that you want to do a lot of test hands on your own just to get a feel for the deck and see how you like to play it. And also I would highly recommend either testing on a manual simulator, so something like Dueling Book where everything's manual, or if you want to like try proxy the cards and test them IRL, then you can do that. But I would not recommend testing out on something like Edo Pro, because since the combos can get a little bit complex, you really don't want to have to start over if you like mess up one part. And so it's easier if you're using something like Dueling Book to go back and fix your combo if you did something wrong, instead of having to start over like you would on Edo Pro. Also, like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions about any particular part of the combo, just let me know, because obviously I didn't explain like verbally what was happening, but in part I just didn't want this video to be even longer. So just let me know if there's anything that was kind of like hard to understand. And yeah, hope y'all enjoyed. I'm excited for the new support, and if you have any feedback on the video, just let me know. Peace.